But good morning, everyone. Thank you for your interest in the New Jersey State Council on the Arts Individual Artist Fellowships. Again, just want to point out that we do have live captioning for today's presentation, and you can turn the closed captioning on down at the bottom on your toolbar. My name is Jackie Dominis. My pronouns are she, her, they, them, and I'm the program director for fellowships at Mid-Atlantic Arts. I'm currently zooming in from South Jersey, the ancestral territory of the Lenape people. And I'm also very happy to be joined today by Steph Nurbach from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, as well as my colleague from Mid-Atlantic Arts, Steph Reyes. Steph, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Reyes. I'm Program Associate for Fellowships and International here at Mid-Atlantics. I am connecting from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, better known by Taínos as Boriquén. For Spanish-speaking applicants, si tienen dudas o preguntas en español, pueden comunicarse conmigo para poderles asistir. Jackie?
Thanks. So Mid-Atlantic Arts administers the application submission review and post-award process on behalf of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts through an ongoing partnership. This webinar is designed to help you better understand the Individual Artist Fellowships program and help guide you through the application process with Mid-Atlantic Arts SmartSimple application system. So today we're going to review the eligibility and application requirements, and then we will actually pull up the application and provide a demonstration about how to use the online system. I anticipate that the presentation portion of the webinar will last about an hour, and then we'll spend some time answering questions at the end. The webinar is intended to help applicants gain a better understanding of the program and its requirements, but is not intended as a substitution for the program guidelines, which are available in both English and Spanish on the New Jersey State Council on the Arts and Mid-Atlantic Arts websites. As I mentioned, Steph Nurbach will be one of our co-presenters for today. So before we get started with the presentation, I just want to invite Steph to say a few words about the State Arts Council and the Individual Artist Fellowships program.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Jackie. I'm Steph Nurbach, the Artist Services Program Associate at the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. And I am so pleased to be here with our partners at Mid-Atlantic Arts to offer this application assistance webinar. The State Arts Council is so proud of the wealth of diverse talent in our state, and we're excited to offer the Artist Fellowship Awards each and every year. With a recent increase in the Council's investment in this program, we recently shifted to a 2-year cycle, offering a rotation of 6 and 7 disciplines per application cycle. So in other words, artists are able to apply more frequently to this program. And thankfully, the council has been able to award a greater number of artists at a higher award amount. So for example, last year, 140 artists received awards from the council, ranging from $4,000 to $32,000. So there are also other ways that the council supports artists, including professional development opportunities, the public arts inclusion program, and folk and traditional arts programming, also made available every year. Please visit our website to explore more of the council's programs and services in support of artists in New Jersey. Also, if you're not on our mailing list, please consider adding yourself to the mailing list. That includes our Opportunities for the Field newsletter. That's a bi-weekly compilation of various calls for artists, professional development, and other kinds of opportunities for artists and arts organizations, including a variety of disciplines and interests and expertise. Also, our latest issues of Opportunities for the Field can also be found on our website. And please feel free to reach out to me directly following this webinar. I can be reached at stephanie.nurbach@sos.nj.gov. That's about it for my end. I just want to say thank you again to Jackie and to Steph Really, truly, our partners at Mid-Atlantic Arts really make this fellowship program possible for us, because without their dedication and hard work on the program, we really couldn't have the capacity to do this. So we thank them so much wholeheartedly, and we look forward to this year's cycle. Back to you, Jackie.
Thanks, Steph. So before we begin, we do just want to respectfully ask that everyone save their questions until the end. We will make sure that we get to everyone's questions at that time. I also want to note that we will post a public on our YouTube captioned recording of this webinar along with the transcript following today's presentation. And also, if you are only in need of a refresher about the application system, and you don't want to sit through a presentation about the guidelines, we do have a 10-minute quick start tutorial on Mid-Atlantic Arts website and YouTube page as well that just delves into how to do the application part. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off just in hopes that it makes technology run even smoother. And we'll go ahead and jump right in. So before we get into the specific eligibility requirements, I'd like to provide an overview of how the program works. The individual artist fellowships are awarded based on work that applicants have already created. In the application and program guidelines that we'll be discussing today, you'll notice that you'll be asked to submit examples of your work from the past 4 years. In order to be eligible for the program, you must be able to submit work that falls within the parameters of one of the categories offered during the current round. The completed work samples that you submit in your application will be evaluated through a peer review panel process. If you're recommended to receive a fellowship based on those evaluations, you'll receive a cash award that is almost entirely unrestricted. So what this means is that you can use that funding for almost any purpose which helps support you in your work. For example, you could apply in painting, and if awarded, you could use that funding for painting supplies or to help support a filmmaking or interdisciplinary project, or to help cover your rent so you have more time to focus on your artistic pursuits. Many people are familiar with project grants where you submit a proposal and receive funding to execute a specific idea or concept that you would like to complete in the future. But for the fellowships, you only need to submit eligible examples of your past work, even if you don't have a specific project in mind for the fellowship funding. Fellowship recipients have almost complete flexibility to use the funding in a way that works best for them. Individual artist fellowships are offered in a broad range of visual, literary, and performing arts categories. Different categories are offered each year, and as noted in the program guidelines, we actually switched from a 3-year to a 2-year category rotation schedule starting last year or the year before. So this means that applicants have the opportunity to apply to fellowships more regularly. And the categories for the 2024 award cycle will be film video, digital electronic, interdisciplinary, painting, prose, and printmaking / drawing / book arts. Only applications in these categories will be accepted for the 2024 fellowships. You may submit 1 application in a single category per year. If your work doesn't fall under one of these categories, then we invite you to see the program guidelines for the full category rotation schedule and apply under the appropriate award category in a future program year. The application deadline for the 2024 individual artist fellowships will be 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, July 13th, 2023. Please be sure to plan ahead and contact us in advance of the deadline if you need any assistance. And please also feel free to reach out to Mid-Atlantic Arts if you're experiencing any issues accessing the application. So how are fellows selected? Recipients are selected through a competitive evaluation process based on examples of their work submitted in the application. Fellowship applications are reviewed by independent panels of peer evaluators composed of artists and arts professionals with expertise in the specific discipline that they're reviewing. The recipients of individual artist fellowships are decided solely on artistic excellence as demonstrated by work samples submitted with the artist application. It's also important to note that applications are reviewed anonymously. Panelists will not have access to your information as they are reviewing the work. The anonymous review process helps ensure that panelists are not influenced by name recognition or the previous accomplishments, education, or employment of the applicant. There is no award quota per artistic discipline or style. Fellowships are awarded to those applicants who demonstrate the highest artistic excellence regardless of discipline. At the end of the evaluation process, State Arts Council staff combines all application scores across every discipline offered that year and creates a funding scenario that awards the top scoring applications. The amount of the award is determined annually by the State Arts Council from funding provided through the New Jersey Hotel Motel Tax. Fellowship awards have ranged in the past from $4,000 to $32,000. As I mentioned, fellowships are not project-based, so the funds are not earmarked for any specific purpose other than to help support the recipient. Artists may use fellowship awards to purchase supplies, participate in a workshop, rent studio space, or pay their mortgage, obtain childcare, or generally use the funding to free their time, among many other possibilities. The only limitations are that fellowship funds may not be used for travel out of the country, study as a matriculated student in either a graduate or undergraduate program, or to purchase permanent equipment, which is equipment with a resale value exceeding $350 or having a lifespan of over 3 years. To be considered eligible to apply for a fellowship, applicants must be permanent residents of the state of New Jersey. The applicant must be a current permanent New Jersey resident at the time of application and at the time of award, which will take place in March of 2024. This means that if the applicant moves out of state after the application has been submitted, but prior to being awarded a grant, they are no longer considered eligible. Awarded fellows will be asked to supply 2 forms of verification, such as utility bills, driver's license, bank statements, etc., with their name and home address. Applicants must be age 18 or older, and the applicant must be the artist whose original artwork is represented in the submitted work samples. There are also some limitations about who may apply to this program. So the following individuals are not eligible to apply. Artists who received a New Jersey State Council on the Arts Fellowship in any category in 2023, 22, 21, 20, or 19 are not eligible to apply for the current year. Applicants may not be matriculated students in a graduate, undergraduate, or high school program at the time of application or award. Collaborating New Jersey artists are not eligible to submit a joint application for collaborative work. The applicant artist must have sole creative control over all work submitted to the fellowships program under their name. In addition to meeting applicant eligibility, all work samples submitted for consideration must meet a general set of eligibility criteria regardless of the medium. These require that all work samples must have been produced within the eligible time frame outlined by discipline in the program guidelines. Work completed while the applicant was a matriculated student in a graduate, undergraduate, or high school program is not considered eligible. Works in progress and project proposals are not considered eligible work samples. For the purposes of this program, complete is considered to be the point at which the work is ready for public presentation, unless otherwise noted in the guidelines. As I mentioned previously, to help ensure that applicants are reviewed solely on the artistic excellence of the work submitted and not on the previous accomplishments or identity of the artist, the New Jersey State Council on the Arts has made the application review process anonymous for the panelists. Accordingly, applicants may not include identifying or biographical information in their work samples, in the work sample files, or on the work sample page of the online application, including information such as, but not limited to, the artist's name or signature, identifying initials or symbols, professional affiliations, and biographical information may render the application ineligible. If it is not possible for this type of identifying information to be edited out of the work sample, it cannot be submitted as part of the application. We also want you to keep in mind that there are specific technical requirements for work submitted to this program. These requirements help with consistency, but are also necessary to make sure the work samples submitted are compatible with the review software that the panelists will use. In almost every case, it is possible to convert whatever files you have available, but we urge you to plan ahead when preparing your work samples for submission. We also have an extensive work sample preparation guide available on the Mid-Atlantic Arts website, which includes links to free online conversion resources and answers to many frequently asked questions. For those of you who have applied with the eGrant system in the past, you may notice that we are able to offer a little more flexibility with this new system, so please do revisit these requirements in the program guidelines. All applicants, regardless of discipline, will be given space in the application to address the following optional prompt. Is there any other information you want to provide for the panelists to help them better understand the work submitted in this application? The panel statement is at all times secondary to the work samples, but is intended to provide applicants with a space to convey non-biographical information to the panel that they feel is key to the reception and full appreciation of the submitted work. Artists who choose to submit a statement for the panel should be aware that their response may not include any biographical or identifying information. So acceptable topics to address in the panel statement include any of the following: artistic interpretation or theoretical background of the work, your artistic philosophies as they relate to the submitted work, how you physically or conceptually produce your work, your creative habits or inspiration, if applicable, any additional visual description in cases when work is not easily captured or is otherwise difficult to understand, any non-biographical information that helps the panelists situate your work samples within your larger body of work as an artist, and you may discuss your cultural identity, such as race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or religion, if you feel it is relevant for understanding your work. The panel statement may not include your legal or artist name, contact information such as personal details, social media handles, agent or media contacts, any biographical information that could be found in your CV or resume, including your exhibitions, performance, or publication history, your educational background, information about former or current employment, details about awards, fellowships, grants, or residencies that you've received, details about the exhibition, performance, or publication of the submitted work, any indication, hinted or overt, about the applicant's age, experience level, or where the applicant is in their career. So we ask you not to include anything like I've been practicing for 30 years or after recently graduating with my MFA. Links to external sources of any kind, please don't include your website, interviews, things like that. Direct appeals to the panel, information about what the funding would be used for should you receive an award, or your personal or financial circumstances. And again, that's because the fellowships are not a need-based grant. In addition to general work sample eligibility and technical specifications for work samples, each category has specific requirements for the work samples depending on the medium. We're going to try to quickly review what those are for each category, but again, please be sure to review the program guidelines before submitting an application. We also strongly encourage applicants to use the program guidelines as a checklist as they go through the application to make sure that they are meeting all the requirements for their category. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Steph.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, let's go ahead. So film and video category. This category accepts all genres of film and video, such as feature films, film shorts, animation, documentaries, etc., as well as any other time-based work produced by recording visual images. One example of the applicant's original work must be uploaded into the online application. The uploaded video file has a maximum time limit of 10 minutes and may not exceed 500 megabytes. Do not submit more than one work in the file. The submitted video file must represent a contiguous portion of the work. Do not submit a collection of excerpts. The work must have been completed after July 13, 2019, and the application artist must be solely responsible for the creative decision regarding conception, directing, and editing of the work submitted. Collaborations are not eligible. Do not submit works in progress. Work completed or primarily produced while the applicant was a student is not eligible. The video work samples must be stripped of any identifying metadata embedded in the file, and the file names must not contain the applicant's name or other identifying information. Slide. Applicants should be prepared to supply the following information about the work sample in the online application: title of the work, length of the full work, the month and year of completion, a short to 2-3 sentence synopsis or description of the full work. The synopsis should help situate the submitted section in the context of the larger work, if applicable. Applicants may also include other relevant technical details about the creation of the work in the technical information section of the application. For example, camera equipment use, methods of editing, etc. If working as the head of a production team, applicants should explain their specific roles in the creation of the work, keeping in mind that the applicant must have maintained creative control over the full work in order for it to be eligible for this program. And your panel statement, it's optional. Digital and electronic or electronic. This category accepts time-based interactive or kinetic work where technology is pivotal to the meaning and or presentation of the work, such as electronic installations, virtual and augmented reality, internet projects, and other emerging forms. Film, video, and responsive audio components which are incorporated into a larger installation work are also accepted in this category. Please be sure to closely review the guidelines for examples of what work is and is not accepted in this category. A note on AI: works purely generated through AI are not eligible, as the artist must have sole creative control over the conceptualization and implementation of the project. Projects that utilize AI as part of a generative process, but where the artist retains creative control of the finished work, are eligible. Artists should clearly describe the process of creation in the panel statement if AI is part of the process of making their work. Applications will provide with space to upload 4 to 8 images or short video clips of the original work in the online application. Either an image or video file will be accepted for each upload. Applicants may submit any combination of images and video that best represent their work within the space allotted in the application. Applicants may submit both image and video documentation of the same work. It is strongly recommended that at least 4 individual pieces of work are represented in your application if visible. Do not submit more than 8 total examples of your work. All work samples must have been created after July 13th, 2019. Do not submit works in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student, and no signatures, initials, or recognizable artist marks identifier may appear in the digital images or within the videos. So, if submitting video as your work sample documentation, each video clip must be no longer than 1 minute in length and no larger than 100 megabytes. The video should demonstrate how the work samples function. Video may only provide documentation of the submitted work samples. Do not submit promotional videos, still images presented as a slideshow, interviews with the artist, or other commentary which provide interpretation of the work. Video work samples must be stripped of any identifying metadata embedded in the files, and the file names must not contain the applicant's name or other identifying information. So applicants should be prepared to supply the following information about each work sample in the online application: title of the work sample, medium, dimensions if applicable, month and year of completion, Applicants should also describe the production technique, materials, and technical process related to the creation of the work samples in the technical information section of the online application. And optional, the panel statement. Interdisciplinary. This category accepts work which is created by combining two or more fellowship disciplines. The category is intended for work which will not otherwise be appropriate for review in any of the individual fellowship disciplines due to the interdisciplinary nature of the work. Mixed media work that is primarily one medium or work where each disciplinary component could be performed or exhibited independently should not be submitted in this category. Before starting an application, applicants submitting in the interdisciplinary category should reference their work against the following criteria to help ensure eligibility. The applicant must be the individual who had sole creative control over the conceptualization and creation of work submitted under their name. Creative collaborations are not eligible, although the artist may have received assistance with the physical production of the work. Any work where each disciplinary component could be performed or exhibited independently is not eligible. For example, a musical composition that is used for a choreographed dance performance will not be eligible, even if both were created by a single artist. This category is intended for work which is not well suited for any other single fellowship discipline. Artists who work in more than one discipline separately but do not combine those disciplines into a single interdisciplinary works are not eligible. Applicants submitted in this category will be evaluated by panelists representing a broad range of artistic disciplines and interdisciplinary practices. Keep in mind the type of panel that is best suited to evaluate your work. If your work is primarily based in a single discipline, such as printmaking, the panelists evaluating the printmaking, drawing, book arts category will have more specialized experience in the type of work you are submitting. The submitted work samples must incorporate at least two of the fellowship artistic disciplines listed on page 8 of the guidelines. For example, a dancer who also choreographed the work that is being performed will not be eligible as dance. Performance is not an individual artistic fellowship artist discipline. So mixed media, work that is primarily one medium, should not be submitted in this category. For example, a painting which incorporates a small amount of collage should be submitted in the painting category. So applicants will be provided with space to upload 4 to 8 digital images and or short video clips of their original work, or 1 to 4 PDFs of their original work. If submitting digital images as work sample documentation, you will need to upload 4 to 8 digital images of the applicant's original work must be uploaded into the online application. You may include detailed shots, but it is strongly recommended that at least 4 individual pieces of work are represented in your application if feasible. Do not submit more than 8 samples of your work. Composite images are discouraged but will be accepted as long as no more than 8 work samples in total are represented in the application. All work samples must have been created after July 13, 2019. And again, no signatures, initials, or recognizable artist marks identifiers may appear in the digital images. Do not submit work in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student. If submitting video as, for example, documentation, in addition to digital images, each video clip must be no longer than 1 minute in length and no larger than 100 megabytes. If submitting only video files, you may upload 2 work samples with a maximum time limit of 5 minutes each, may not exceed 250 megabytes each, or 1 work sample with a maximum time limit of 10 minutes, may not exceed 500 megabytes. Only 1 work sample should be documented in each video. Video may only provide documentation of the submitted work samples. Do not submit promotional videos, still images, presented as a slideshow, interviews with the artist, or other commentary which provides interpretation of the work. All work samples must have been created after July 13, 2019, and do not submit works in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student. If submitting PDFs as work samples documentation, 1 to 4 PDFs of the applicant's original work must be uploaded into the online application. Each PDF should not exceed 10 pages. All work samples must be submitted in English. Authors may translate their own work into English if originally written in a different language. English translations of work by authors other than the applicant and translations of the applicant's work by someone other than the applicant are not permitted. Text must be a standard, easy to read font. For example, Times New Roman, Calibri, Arial, in 1 or 12-point size. Work submitted as PDFs must be written work sample. Do not submit images as PDFs. Images should be submitted as JPEG, PNG, BMP files as described above. Do not submit work in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student, and work samples must have been completed after July 13, 2019. Painting. This category accepts all forms of painting, including watercolors, acrylic, gouache, oil, tempera, encaustic, mural, fresco, graffiti, and painting which incorporate mixed media. Digital painting is not accepted. 4 to 8 digital images of the applicant's original work must be uploaded into the online application. You may include detailed shots, but it is strongly recommended that at least 4 individual pieces of work are represented in your application if feasible. Do not submit more than 8 examples of your work. Composite images are discouraged but will be accepted as long as no more than 8 work samples in total are represented in the application. All work samples must have been created after July 13, 2019, and no signatures, initials, or recognizable artist marks identifier may appear in the digital images. Self-portraits should not be identified as such if the image contains the recognizable likeness of the artist. Do not submit work in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student. Applicants should be prepared to supply the following information about each work sample in the online application: title of the work sample, medium, dimensions, month and year of completion. Applicants should also describe the production techniques, materials, and technical process related to the creation of the work samples in the technical information section of the online application. Optional, applicants who wish to include interpretation of the work or information about their creative process have the option to submit a panel statement. Prose. This category accepts all forms of fiction, literary nonfiction, and other creative prose, including novels, novellas, short stories, essays, criticism, journalism, and biography. Technical writing is not accepted. Poetry and playwriting, screenwriting are not accepted as those disciplines are reviewed in alternate years. A 10 to 20-page section of single original work by the applicant must be uploaded into the application. The full work sample must have been completed after July 13, 2019. The submitted section of the work sample must represent a contiguous portion of the full text. Do not submit a collection of excerpts. Panelists will be asked to read the entire 10 to 20 pages submitted work. All work samples must be submitted in English. Authors may translate their own work into English if originally written in a different language. English translations of work by authors other than the applicant and translations of the applicant's work by someone other than the applicant are not permitted. Do not include identifying or crediting information, including the applicant's name, literary agent information, or publication details. Do not submit work in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student. To help with legibility and ease of review during the panel evaluation process, please format the submitted work sample document according to the following specifications. Standard 8.5 by 11 page size, double space, 1-inch page margins. Text must be standard, easy to read font, Times New Roman, Calibri, Arial in 11 or 12 point size. Title pages may only include the name of the work. Title pages will not be factored into the page count. Pages must be numbered, preferably in the lower right-hand corner of each page. In cases where a companion images are integral to the understanding of the written work, such as graphic novels, the applicant may include illustrations or images. Please note, however, that only the applicant's written work will be evaluated. The applicant must provide a photo credit or credits for the included images. Or note that the images were created by the applicant to protect their anonymity. Stock photos, clip art, and other images that identify the applicant or are intended to embellish the document will not be accepted. Applicants must provide information about the work sample, including title of the work, length of the full work in pages, the month and year of completion, a short 2 to 3 sentence synopsis of the full work. The synopsis should help situate the submitted section in the context of the larger work, if applicable. Optional, applicants who wish to include interpretation of the work or information about their creative process have the option to submit a panel statement. Printmaking, drawing, and book arts. This category accepts all forms of drawing, printmaking, etching, collage, illustration, installation, in which printmaking or drawing techniques are pivotal, and other visual media other than painting. Book art and examples of artistic bookmaking are also eligible in this category. Artist catalogs and literary books are not accepted. Other sculptural forms constructed of paper should be submitted in the sculpture category. Work that only exists in digital format is not accepted. So 4 to 8 digital images of the applicant's original work must be uploaded into the online application. You may include detailed shots, but it is strongly recommended that at least 4 individual pieces of work are represented in your application if feasible. Do not submit more than 8 examples of your work. Composite images are discouraged, but will be accepted as long as no more than 8 work samples in total are represented in the application. All work samples must have been created after July 13th, 2019, and no signatures, initials, or recognizable artist marks identifiers may appear in the digital images. Self-portrait should not be identified as such if the image contains the recognizable likeness of the artist. Do not submit works in progress or work completed while the applicant was a student. Applicants should be prepared to supply the following information about each work sample in the online application: title of the work sample, medium, dimensions, month and year of completion. Applicants should also describe the production techniques, materials, and technical processes related to the creation of the work samples in the technical information section of the online application. Optional, applicants who wish to include interpretation of the work or information about their creative process have the option to submit a panel statement. And now we'll pass it to Jackie.
Thanks, Steph. So before we begin the demo of the application, I just want to reiterate a couple of important points about the work samples that you submit. Please keep your work samples and work sample information anonymous. Be sure to carefully review your work samples and the file properties for any identifying or biographical information, and make sure that it has been removed before submitting. For the purposes of this program, again, identifying and biographical information includes your legal or artist name, contact information such as personal details, email, address, phone number, social media handles, agent or media contacts. Any biographical information that could be found in your CV or resume, including your exhibition, performance, or publication history, educational background, information about former or current employment, or details about awards, fellowships, grants, or residencies that you've received. Details about the exhibition, performance, or publication of the work you're submitting, and any indication, hinted or overt, about the applicant's age, experience level, or where the applicant is in their career. Your work samples, again, should be completed work. Please do not submit project proposals or works in progress. Only submit your original work, collaborative work, or any work over which you do not have sole creative control is considered ineligible. And if you've recently completed a course of study, please make sure you are not submitting work that you created while you were a matriculated student. Okay, so now that we've gone over the eligibility requirements, I'm just going to switch views here so I can give a demonstration of how to fill out the online application. So the direct URL to the online application is the one that you'll see up top there, midatlanticarts.smartsimple.com. The first thing you'll want to do is open your internet browser and simply type the address into the bar at the top of the page, or you can also follow the link that's provided in the program guidelines or on the Mid-Atlantic Arts website. You must have a SmartSimple account and be logged in order to access the application. If you have an existing account but can't remember your information, you'll want to click the Forgot Password link below the login fields to regain access to your account. A link where you can reset your password will be sent to the email associated with your account. If you have applied for an organizational grant through the Mid-Atlantic Arts SmartSimple system in the past year, you will also need to create a new account as an individual artist. To create an account, you'll click the Register button under the login fields to get started. Applicants for the Individual Artist Fellowship Program must register as individual artists in order to have access to the New Jersey Fellowships application. So you'll select individual artists to continue. On the next page, you'll enter your information and provide an email address for your account. We strongly recommend registering your individual artist account with a personal email address rather than a business email. This is especially important if your business email is associated with an organization that may apply for grant funding through Mid-Atlantic Arts in the future. So I've already registered with an email address for today's demonstration, but once you complete this page and submit your registration, you'll receive an email from SmartSimple prompting you to log in and set your account password. The link in the email will take you back to the SmartSimple website where you can set your password and finish activating your account. After you set your password, you'll be directed back to the login page where you can enter your credentials for the account that you just created. Again, for demonstration purposes, I've already registered, so I'm just going to return to this main login page and enter my login and password. So once you're logged in, you'll be directed to a landing page that will list all the account options and grant opportunities available to individual artists. From this page, you can update your profile information and change your password. You can start a new application, access your in-progress applications, or check the status of a submitted application. To access the fellowship application, you'll click the Funding Opportunities button under Available Applications. And then this next page will display any opportunities that are currently open to individual artists at Mid-Atlantic Arts. Other grant applications may also be listed on this page, but for New Jersey, you'll click the Apply Now button under the New Jersey State Council on the Arts Individual Artist Fellowship opportunity to start your application. It's important to note that when you initially create your application, you must click the Save Draft button. at the bottom of the page to save a copy of the application draft to your account. You must click Save Draft in order to have access to all of the necessary fields. You'll notice that the application itself is divided into 3 tabs: applicant information, work samples, and consent. Navigating between these 3 sections is very simple. You can just click on the tab, or you can also click the next and back buttons at the bottom of the page. The first section of the application is for applicant information. Nothing on this tab will be shared with panelists, so don't worry about including your personal information here. On the applicant information tab, the first thing you'll be prompted to do is select the category in which you are applying. And again, as a reminder, you may only submit 1 application in a single category per year. Some of the information that you provided when registering for your SmartSimple account will automatically carry over to this tab of the application. So you're going to see that some of your information is pre-populated under the profile information header. So just review that information, and if you need to make any edits, you can click the click here to edit your account profile information link provided in the instructions box. Your account profile should pop up as a new tab or window, which can be closed as soon as you've completed making the changes. And once you save those changes in your account profile, save the application draft again to update your profile information. Just a note that wherever you see a little red asterisk after the field, that means that that field is required. So you'll need to provide information in all of those fields before the system will allow you to submit. On the lower half of the page, you will provide your artist or publicity name, if applicable. As noted, this is basically just the name you prefer to use when being publicly addressed as an artist. We will provide this information to the State Arts Council for announcements in the case that you do receive a fellowship. You'll also be required to provide the county in which you reside. And the application also asks for information about any previous New Jersey State Council on the Arts individual artist fellowships you may have won. So if you indicate that you have received a fellowship in the past, it will also ask for the year and discipline. All applicants must include a resume or biography. You can use this space to describe your educational background and professional achievements. Again, this is used for administrative purposes and will not be seen by the panelists, so please don't worry about anonymity here. Either a narrative bio or your CV is fine. This is a rich text field, so you'll be able to edit and format that information in the application. There is a 2,000 word limit on this field. And please note that you can either copy and paste or type directly into this field, but you can't upload an attachment or document here. Finally, the New Jersey State Council on the Arts also collects optional demographic information that provides the council with important data about the communities they serve. This information is used for analytical purposes only and will not be seen by the panelists or otherwise inform the selection process. Before discussing the work sample tab, it's important to understand how the application works to ensure that you're supplying the correct information. So the category the applicant selects on the applicant profile tab will determine what specific work sample information they're required to provide on the work samples tab. Some of you might know this as conditional formatting, but it basically just allows applicants to see the information that's relevant for them depending on the category they're applying to. So because we're offering 6 categories this year and they each look a little bit different depending on those category specific requirements we reviewed, I'm just going to demonstrate how to generally upload your work samples and complete the next tab of the application. And I'm going to do that by selecting painting as my discipline on the applicant information tab. So now when I click over to the work samples tab, once I've selected my category, the work samples tab will provide some instructions for submitting in the painting category. So again, please keep in mind that this will look different if you're applying in a different category. I want to remind everyone again that anonymity is a cornerstone of the individual artist fellowships program. So it is extremely important that you remove any identifying or biographical information from anything that's included in this work samples tab of the application. As a general rule, anything that could be listed in your resume should be omitted from this section of the application. Moving down the page, the first requirement will be a work sample file upload. Categories that collect image, audio, and video work samples will use a media library function, which allows you to upload multiple files into your application at once. So once you click the upload button, you'll see the types of files that are allowed. In this case, image files, since it's painting, the max file size limit for each upload, and the maximum number of files that can be uploaded. If you click the browse button to locate the files on your computer, you can select the desired files and click open. So I've selected 2 image files for this application, and the upload speed, just so you know, will depend on your personal internet connection as well as the size of the files that you're uploading. Once your work samples are uploaded, you can go ahead and close the upload file window. And your work samples will now be added to your media library. You can preview the images by clicking on the thumbnails. If you are submitting video or audio files as part of your category requirements, please note that the upload may take several minutes to process your preview, depending on the length and size of the file. Once they have processed, you should be able to play those back for review before you submit your application. The application will also collect specific information about each work sample upload. To edit this information in the media library, you'll click the Edit Metadata button and complete the fields as prompted. Once you've done that, you'll click Save. The top of the Edit Metadata window will just list some basic information about the file. Under the work information section, you'll be prompted to include those additional details about the work sample. Again, the information that's collected here may look different depending on your category. So once you've entered your metadata information for the work sample, click the Save button at the bottom. And then you'll want to click Save Draft again, just to update the information. So if I had put in metadata there, it would pop up underneath the work sample. Please note that if you're applying in the pros category, you'll just have a simple file upload field and will enter the information about your work sample into the form as prompted. You won't need to click an Edit Metadata button, so you're not missing anything. The form is just organized a little bit differently for PDF documents. Below the section where you upload your work samples, all applicants will see an optional field to provide a panel statement. As a reminder, your panel statement is limited to 250 words. And that will go here. And then at the bottom of the work samples tab, you'll also be asked 2 questions that are intended to help verify that you've completed all of the necessary fields and that the information submitted in this tab of the application is anonymous. After applicants have uploaded their work samples and filled in all the related information for their respective categories, all applicants will be required to provide their consent to the terms and conditions of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. So on the last tab, you'll need to review the information provided and click I have read and agree to the statements listed above. You must click this checkbox in order to submit your application. Applicants who do not agree with the terms and conditions are not considered eligible and will not be allowed to submit their applications. If you have a question or need technical assistance as you are completing your application, if you see to the left-hand side here, you can click on the Notes tab on the left and add a new note by clicking the plus button. This is where you can write a message to Mid-Atlantic Arts and click Save to share the note with our staff. When we respond, you'll be notified by email, and our message will also be saved alongside your application in the system for easy reference. So when we answer, you'll see our note pop up here as well. And then to return to the main application, you would just click Main. When you're all set and you've reviewed everything carefully and are ready to click Submit, you can click the Submit button at the bottom of the page. If you've missed a required field or if other errors are found, you will see a red error box at the top of the page, and you should make the appropriate corrections to the application. So here you can see that I have quite a bit of missing information in my application, and I'm not going to go back and fill everything in right now, but you may see a few of these reminders if you forgot something or haven't filled in all of the required fields. If everything is verified, the application will confirm that you're ready to submit, and you may complete the submission process. Once the application has been submitted, you will no longer be able to make changes, so please review the information carefully prior to clicking submit. If you are unsure of the eligibility requirements, please review the guidelines and contact Mid-Atlantic Arts prior to submitting the application. After you've successfully submitted your application, you will receive a confirmation message in SmartSimple, as well as an automatically generated confirmation email with a copy of your application attached. No further actions are required at that point. It may take several minutes for your confirmation email to be sent after submission, so we do ask for you to be patient in that scenario and to also please check your junk or spam folder. Finally, I'll note that submitting your application means that you filled in all the required information and provided the correct work sample file types, but it does not necessarily mean that you have met all of the eligibility and technical requirements. We try to provide some reminders throughout the application, but it's ultimately up to the applicant to make sure that they are following the guidelines. Before we wrap up the demonstration, one other thing I'd like to reiterate is that you do not need to complete the application all at one time. Applicants can fill out a portion of the application and log back in at a later time, and that saved information will still be there for you as long as you've clicked Save Draft. You can also access but not edit your submitted application from the home page, which is the landing page where you first arrived after you logged in. So just to demonstrate, I'll return to the home page. Oops, let me save draft first. And under my applications, you'll see I have one application draft in progress. After my application has been submitted, it will be moved to the submitted folder and can also be accessed there. And after the fellowships have been awarded and notifications have been sent, you'll also be able to see that information under the approved or declined section. So with that, I will close out of SmartSimple. And let me just reopen our presentation so we can discuss some final information, and then we will take some questions. So as I mentioned, Mid-Atlantic Arts administers the application submission and review on behalf of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts through an ongoing partnership, and we are here to help you through the application process. Please feel free to be in touch. Questions regarding the guidelines, the application process, or technical issues should be directed to me. And again, my name is Jackie Dominis. I'm the Program Director of Fellowships at Mid-Atlantic Arts. They can also be directed to Steph, who is our Program Associate for Fellowships and International. And the best way to reach both of us is by email. And that's the email that you see at the bottom of the screen, fellowships@midatlanticarts.org, or you can also reach us by phone at 410-539-6656, extension 101. Assistance will only be available during regular business hours, and also it will only be available until 5 p.m. on the day of the deadline. Mid-Atlantic Arts offices are also closed on federal holidays, and I do want to mention that applicants receive assistance from Mid-Atlantic Arts staff on a first-come, first-served basis. And we would like to just mention to be aware that the demand increases significantly shortly before the deadline. So your best bet is to please be in touch as early in the application process as possible if you need assistance. That way we can make sure that we get back to you in a timely fashion. Just for reference, we'll be dealing with a volume of around 600 or 700 applications. So that's all just to say that the sooner that you can get your questions in, the sooner we can reply to you.